Judge number 7, Miss Ostrava. Judge number 8, Miss Hilda, Finland. Judge number 9, Miss Isabella and Trevor, France. And from International State Union, Technical Controller, Miss Carla and Kai. Technical Specialist, Miss Lila and Technical Specialist, Miss Hilda.
Welcome to the Volvo Sports Centre for Riga Cup 2022, the third event in the International Skating Union's Junior Grand Prix Series. And yesterday we saw the pair, the men's and the women's competition start, and today we start with the ice dance competition. And last week in Ostrava we saw world junior records being broken by the Czech team Mrazkova and Mrazek, and we hope for the same brilliance here in Riga. So stay tuned for the start of the rhythm dance competition. Welcome to Riga in Latvia for the Riga Cup 2022. This amazing city will host some of the world's best junior figure skaters this week. It truly is an amazing location, the largest city in the Baltic states, and officially founded in 1201. So steeped in history and steeped in skating quality, as you see now, the Volvo Sports Centre where the action takes place. My name is Mark Conretti and I will be hosting the event alongside the wonderful Ted Barton, who joins from 8,000 kilometres away.
Well, good morning, Mark. Good morning here in Canada on the West Coast in Vancouver. Just thrilled to join your broadcast. You're ringside in Riga. It's so much enjoy working with you as we take a look at the judging list for the rhythm dance coming up in just a few moments. We'll see the technical panel as well. And Mark, I noted in the opening you were outside, no gloves, no turtleneck, no jackets and scarves, as you would have in the rink. A nice warm day out there in Riga.
Yes, definitely different attire needed for inside the venue. I am about 5 layers of clothing deep now for the commentary, so it's a little different scenario, but it's a beautiful day outside, for sure.
Well, you can always take a mini break and thaw out just for during the ice street services if you ever get a chance to get out of the building, that's for sure. As we take a look at the start order for the rhythm dance, there are 14 teams in this event, week number 3 on the Junior Grand Prix.
Yes, we return to seeing more tango, and that the rhythm dance of choice for this season. So the teams and their coaches and choreographers must pick tango plus at least one of the following dance styles. They can pick from paso doble, flamenco, Spanish waltz, fandango, bolero, jota, milonga. So lots of choice, but we're guaranteed to see tango, and the skaters must pick tango music that has the correct tempo to fit in with the Argentine tango.
So, Mark, if I was really mean, I would be asking you, okay, specifically define the difference between a milonga and a blah, 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 all those different types of rhythms, because I've heard of some of them, but not all of them, and I wonder where they all come from and what the difference is. But maybe during the Junior Grand Prix, the upcoming weeks, you might be able to define them a little bit more, because I have not a clue.
Well, absolutely, and interestingly, the Ice Dance Technical Committee have created an absolute mountain of different, not criteria, but information for judges to help them better assess the skater's ability to interpret the likes of a fandango or a jota. Now, that said, having seen 2 events on the Junior Grand Prix Series already, the most commonly chosen choice in addition to tango, I think, has been flamenco or paso doble, because those are a little bit more commonly understood and appreciated, and so it's easier then for the skaters to interpret it, and also I think easier for the judges to comprehend what's been delivered.
Well, I've noticed there has been a number of milongas that have been presented as well, and this is one I had not heard, so I didn't really know the difference between the tango and the milonga.
And the milonga, if I well, this is where I get a little bit nervous about making sure I'm absolutely correct. But the milonga has elements of Argentine tango, but it allows a greater relaxation of the legs and the body. So it's a little bit more slinky in its interpretation. So harder to find examples of it online, but certainly I'm sure all of the teams that have chosen it will have endeavoured to use the kind of ballroom dance education that is available to them and study the dance as much as is possible, and that a little bit down to the coaches and the choreographers as well.
Yeah, very interesting. Good, easy, simple description there. So that helps a lot because, for the basic terminology of ice dance, that has been our life. We have the same sort of terms, and now we have, new rhythms and whatnot that have not really found their way in ice dance before, and now they do, and just learning more about them is always great.
Yeah, and I think the Ice Dance Technical Committee really keen to make sure that the skaters are being challenged, that the discipline is being well presented. Obviously, recently they've been allowing skaters to consider hip-hop and more contemporary styles as well. So just really conscious that they want to take this amazing sport to the masses, really, and make it as popular for all to watch as possible.
Well, it's certainly great, and for the fans, viewers from around the world, as we take a look at the large Canadian cheering section, the three gentlemen, send your questions in about ice dance. We have an ice dance expert with Mark here, an ice dancer himself, single skater when he first started, and switch over to ice dance, and now stars and dancing on ice with Great Britain. Lots of interesting stories. Some cowgirls there from the west of Canada cheering on the team. Indeed. So, we've got Mark online, so send your questions in. Hashtag JGP, correct?
Yep, hashtag JGP figure. You've got the lingo, Ted. You know what the score is. Yeah. You've got it.
Yeah. And as we just finish up the warm-up of group number 1, as I mentioned, 14 teams in this event.
Yeah. we have, of the 14 teams, 3 of the couples competed at the World Junior Championships at the end of last season in Tallinn, Estonia. And the German team ranked 5th at that event, so potentially the expected favourites coming into this event. We had an amazing ice dance competition in Ostrava, as I mentioned in the opening.
Yeah.
World record is being broken, so exciting time.
That was a fabulous event. It was so exciting to see the Japanese team capture a bronze, and the Czech team amazing in their performances. We get started here in Riga on week 3. Katrina, good as Thibaut from Brazil, Caden Oliver Dawson, 16 years old, both of them coached by Caroline Uris Razguliev, coaches of Piper Gillies and Paul Poirier, Canadian ice dance champions.
Katrina and Caden will use tango as well as Spanish waltz.
Well, Katrina and Caden representing Brazil, coached in Canada by Caroline and Uris Razguliev. You can see this young team developing and doing some nice work there. Skating skills starting to come along, but as you see with young teams, there's always a little bit more separation, if you will, in the beginning as they get a little bit more comfortable. And as you move from juniors into seniors, you see that gap between the two bodies begin to close and get a little closer in their skating. What are your thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. Still a relatively early development, but it's so exciting to see a Brazilian ice dance team. And there has been representation from Brazilian ice dancers on the Junior Grand Prix, but not yet at the Junior World Championship. So this couple, I'm sure, will be really consciously trying to secure the technical element score minimum requirements that the ISU set out to be able to compete at that prestigious caliber of event. So they're in great hands, though, with the coaches that they've got. Marc-Andre here with them as well, in addition to the coaches that they have in Toronto, as you see them work through the twizzles.
There's 24 points, I think, that they need, technical points that they need to qualify, I believe.
Absolutely.
Is that correct with that? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be a challenge at this relatively early stage in the season. And based upon what we can see coming up, it looks like they're going to fall short of that at this event. And I think the likes of that little touchdown, I think Caden there just missed the 1 foot exit on the curved left, so that's coming in as a level 3 as opposed to the level 4, which they would have intended. But proudly waving the Brazilian flag, and as we've seen in the other disciplines, it's just wonderful to see representation from more skating nations, as Katrina enjoys giving a hug to the little flower girl. They went to Brazil in July and they gave a gala at the Arena Ice Brazil, and I think they really embraced the chance to showcase what they're doing to represent the nation in a different discipline.
Well, 37.99 for Katrina and Caden from Brazil. Nice to see, as Mark mentioned, a team from South America. We're seeing more and more skaters in all the disciplines except for pairs at this point coming from South America. It's so great to see. Well, there's a look at our next team from Canada, Jordan Lewis and Noah McMillan. Both 18 years old, coached by Scott Moyer and Adrian Diaz. Well, nice job by Jordan Lewis, Noah McMillan of Canada. Your thoughts, Mark?
Well, you forget, having seen the free skating disciplines, which were wonderful yesterday, forget the intensity of the ice dance competition, and Jordan and Noah certainly brought lots of feisty, fiery intensity from the start till the very end. Interesting. This is the first team that we're seeing from the Ice Academy of Montreal, and they from the London, Ontario branch of the Ice Academy, and still showcasing the quality skating skills that we expect from those we have seen over the past 3 years from the Montreal branch.
Well, it's so nice that both those schools are working so closely together and sharing their coaches and their expertise, and traveling back and forth between London, Ontario, and Montreal to work with different teams of coaches.
I was chatting to Adria Diaz, and he was just explaining that everybody's very cohesively working together, and that's wonderful to see, and that will only serve to enhance the skaters that they are producing and what good quality skaters they are. Just spinning a little bit more like a traveling spin on that Group C third twizzle there for Noah. I love this though, choosing to go in reverse Killian for this, the key point in the second section of the Argentine Tango. The Argentine Tango is a compulsory dance, a patent dance that has been around for years and years and years, and this year the Ice Dance Technical Committee allowing the skaters to play with the holds within the dance, and this team, again, you can see here changing from the original foxtrot hold that was used within these steps in this Argentine Tango, and that undoubtedly making some of the key points which they have to work through a little bit easier to attain. And this couple getting 2 key points on the second section of the Argentine Tango as we look now at the rotational lift.
We've got good levels on the twizzles, both level 4. And it's a young team developing, and under the guidance of some really good coaches, former Olympians, Olympic champions. It's only a matter of time. There's a look at Adrian Diaz and the Kiss and Cry. Had a chance to meet him at the national team camp last week in Ontario. What a nice young man, and great addition to the coaching staff under the guidance of Scott Moyer. Let's take a look at the rhythm dance scores for Jordan and Noah. 53.96. Look, okay, that's okay. That's good. 2 teams skated. They're in first at the moment. And look somewhat satisfied with that score. Well, for France, Lila, Maya, and Martin, both 19 years old. This is their second Junior Grand Prix season, coached by Fabien Boerzat, of course, a famous ice dancer in France as well.
And this team also using Oblivion by Astor Piazzolla, this time with a mix from Hugo Chouinard.
Well, some beautiful deep edges, Mark. Good knee rhythm, close bodies through most of that dance. Strong basic skating skills.
Yeah, and French ice dancing has such a wonderful, successful history, and Fabien Bourgeat, their coach, part of that incredible backstory of French ice dancing. And you can see in this team, deep knee, just as you said, that is so associated with the skating skills that the French ice dancers have had over the years. As you see Fabien Bourgeat greeting them as they come off the ice. Ooh, it'll be interesting to look back at the midline step sequence and just see some of the clarity of the edges. And I'm not so sure about some of the key points, but definitely solid skating skills.
Yeah, it looks like out of the 8 key points, they have 4 no's and 4 yeses. So splitting 50% of those key points is a look how close they are
really
on that
close.
first set of twizzles, and then separated a little bit, get a little breathing space in there, and level 4 and level 3 on that element.
And that's the first section of the Argentine tango. The couples can choose to do the second section first. They don't have to do it in the conventional order. And here, next key point, looking at the depth of edge from the 3-turn and the crush rolls. As the couple move on. And interestingly, Lila Maya previously skated in seniors with her former partner, and now skating with Martin. She's come down to the junior level and potentially able to amass more competitive experience than she would in the senior ranks. And you can just see here, looking, there's the rocker turn. Wouldn't have necessarily called that as a clean turn to help enhance the level for this, their midline step sequence. And then they go through the twizzle, which would be callable. And then here they're about to step into right forward inside counter. And the panel looking at how deep and clearly sustained those edges were. Stationary lift coming in at level 3.
Oh, nice character throughout the program.
Absolutely.
And such a rich tradition in France and Canada and all over the world of ice dance, and the coaches or the former skaters coming back into the coaching ranks carry that tradition on. It's so good to see.
They're really conscious that, especially on the junior circuit, that there are lots of skaters of yesteryear now offering their expertise and wisdom, and Fabien himself was the 2011 and 2012 European champion, so he knows all that it takes to be not only a great skater on the ice, but to cope with the pressure of high-level events.
Scores for the rhythm dance for Lila Maya and Martin, 53.10, and that will put them for the moment into second place. There's a look pretty close there between the Canadians and the French team. As we take a look at the next team from Estonia, Isabella Sukavskaya and Trevor Sebastian Malkasari, both born in Tallinn. She's just 14, he 19.
And this team will start the rhythm dance with the first section of the Argentine tango.
Well, Mark, I think this is a really, really good example of a young team who's come together, still working on their basic individual skating skills to get the strength of the upper body and the depth of edge and just a comfort level, at the same time working with a partner. And so it's a complicated process, of course, early on in this development, but good to get out in the Junior Grand Prix experience with other teams and other skaters, and they did a rather nice job at this stage of their development.
Absolutely, and just like you say, it's their first Junior Grand Prix, and the time that it's taken to prepare and readiness to compete at this level will have consumed so much of their lives over the past few months. On the back of then this experience, I'm sure they will be already feeling so mindful and educated about what they would want to do to improve. But you can see through some of these opening replays, very definitely some tango essence in their movement as we look towards the first section of the Argentine tango. You can just see there's not the same depth of edge or flow and glide that we've seen from the top two teams at present, but they'll have trained here throughout the week. They'll be incredibly mindful of that already. You can see, unfortunately, Isabella missing the blade grab, losing that feature within the twizzles, and then just checking the rotation and spinning a little bit, so not getting the features for the twizzles, and that just an indication of where they're at in their development.
Yeah, and as we've mentioned in all the disciplines, that just the foundation of skating, just skating, right, let alone the technical elements, takes a while to get there. And you can participate in both and compete. You can probably be a little weaker in the beginning until you get the confidence in your foundational skills. And that just simply takes many hours, thousands of hours, and then you'll gain your confidence. And that's where this team is at right now, getting their individual skating skills and as a team as well, while they're trying to learn all these dance elements at the same time.
Absolutely, and like I say, they have to spend time working together, skating together, and the elements moving forward after this event. And hopefully there'll be time to resume their basic skating skills a little bit without the need to run through the program and have the physical fitness ready to get through the program.
And I think one of the other interesting things about young teams as they develop is just actually enjoying the process. Have they enjoyed spending time together, enjoying the challenges that come and overcoming those challenges as a team, as two individual people working together? Absolutely. Then the dance comes along a lot quicker. So important, the team relationship. 29.51 for Isabella and Trevor Sebastian, and that'll put them currently into fourth place. And you can see the coach spending some time just going through some of the details of that dance, trying to keep their spirits up and analyze their job at the time and prepare them for the free dance. They'll go home after this competition, of course, as we look at the standings so far after group number one, as they'll go home and begin to improve on the individual aspects of their experience here in Riga.
Absolutely nothing quite like competition experience. As you see, the next group of 5 teams, the remaining 2 groups will comprise of 5 ice dance teams, 10 skaters on the ice, all vying for space. And as we saw in the last 2 Grand Prix, a little bit frantic on a dance warm-up.
Well, I was just about to say, this might be the most risky of all disciplines, at least on the warm-ups.
Absolutely.
It's always a little complicated as they get involved in their own performance and not aware of where the other teams are.
Yeah, true. Right. And the ice dancers, such showmen and showwomen, and everybody eager to cement their priority place on the ice. And it's often a case of chicken, you know, that game where you...
Right, and are you well experienced at that, being an ice dancer yourself?
I remember, Ted, being on senior international warm-ups, and I think I was far too polite, so I would always give way. And it's like that game of chicken. You're like, who's going to be the first to stop? Who's going to let which team continue on with their transition or their element, and who's going to be the one that you know, paves the way for them to move on? And it's that, it can get really quite intense and fraught. And as I heard last week, it seemed last week we had a lot of couples last week who'd been at Junior Worlds who were quite experienced on the Junior Grand Prix, who there was a lot of that hup noise. If you're not been at an ice dance competition, it might sound ridiculous, but there's a shout of hup, and that's the calling sign for we're coming through, move out of the way.
So Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you're far too polite.
I'd be
you're
like,
probably
excuse
saying,
me, please.
yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm on the ice.
Yeah. Which is really not the vibe that these ice dancers want to give out. They'll be giving out their most exuberantly confident energies.
Yeah, and for when you're new to the discipline in international competition, it's a little intimidating when you get on that ice and you're going, wow, it's pretty intense out here, right?
Absolutely. And last week we had the first Vietnamese ice dance team to compete in the Junior Grand Prix, which in itself was huge celebration. But I'm not sure if they were fully prepared for the lion's den that is an ice dance warm-up. They all mean well. I'm not saying these guys don't mean well, but everybody's just desperately eager to cement their position.
Yeah, they only have so many minutes to warm up, so they want to use them, that's for sure.
And
Mark, do we have any questions coming from our viewers?
Well, that opens up the floodgates. Let's encourage everybody as much as is possible. Let's hear from you, the skating fans and skating aficionados who want to hear about what's happening here in Riga and what indeed is happening on the Junior Grand Prix. So please send in your questions, as Ted said, using the hashtag JGPFigure. We haven't got necessarily an abundance of questions, but great to hear that so many of you interacted and told us about your favourite parts of the first day of competition yesterday. And it does seem, Ted, that there was a lot of love for Connor Bray, who competed in the men's event, and he gave his skates. He was in the last group, and I think he was maybe second or third to skate in the last group, and immediately as he left the ice, took his skates off and gave them to the skater from Hong Kong whose skates hadn't arrived. And that was just the most wonderful example of sportsmanship that we may have seen on the skating circuit for a while.
And that young man skating in Connor's skates did actually quite well. I was shocked at how you adapt so quickly to someone else's skates because it's so uncomfortable.
Oof. Absolutely horrible. And good news is that the skates appear to have arrived. So hopefully, especially
wonderful.
because the skaters are back-to-back in the free skate, I don't know how they would have...
Yeah, that would have been a hard one, yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, good on Connor. Thank you so much for helping a fellow competitor through an awkward and difficult experience. And it's a great show of friendship and camaraderie.
And that's something that I'm really aware of, Ted, is that seeing the teams come to support, because obviously, you know, so many of the skaters have traveled very long distances. They've prepared. You can see from the costumes that so much time, effort, energy, money has gone into the competition. And sometimes the skaters are then likely to go back to rest at the hotel and prepare their bodies and minds for their own individual performances. But great to see in the Junior Grand Prix that so many of the compatriots are staying to support their teammates.
Well, I think a big part of this experience in the juniors is building a team environment as they move through juniors up into seniors, so that because it's so important that you feel that when you haven't skated well, you have people around to help you through that difficult time. And that only comes through team, and team only gets developed by supporting one another. So I think the federations, many of them, are asking and requesting their teammates to support their other colleagues during competition, and they have a lot more fun too. They have a lot of fun doing it. So it's great to see, and it's the right thing to do.
And I think now there's a competition to see who can be the loudest cheering squad as well.
Exactly, and the craziest hats. And well, from Mexico, 15-year-old Harlow, Lanella Stanley, and Nikita Sosnenko. Harlow is 15 years old. Nikita is 18.
And Harlow telling us just how overjoyed she is to represent Mexico here on the Junior Grand Prix.
From Mexico, 15-year-old Harlow Stanley and 18-year-old Nikita Sosnenko. Boy, Mark, not easy to have a difficult fall at the top of the program. He's found them sort of chasing throughout. You know, this is one of the most difficult aspects of ice dance because the performance in the upper body is so critical that when the mind is disappointed with a mistake early on and probably hurting her knee, you're constantly trying to get back into the performance, really appreciate the effort that they made in performance.
Absolutely, and Harlow was just so happy to be here and so proud to represent Mexico, and having heard from her, you're just so conscious and aware of what this means to the young skater, and so then to see that fall at the beginning is just so crushing as a disappointment, but kudos to her for getting up and performing there after that. The challenge is with a mistake like that, this rhythm dance, it's not long to have a conversation to support each other, and Nikita had to work hard. You can see just...
Oh, the toe pick. Just hit the toe pick,
And Nikita then having to work hard to try to encourage and support his partner, knowing that she'll have felt absolutely crestfallen with that mistake at the beginning. But they've only been together for just over a year, so still honing and developing their working relationship, and there's good eye connection between the team for young juniors.
And I saw her patting him on the shoulder.
I saw that too.
Midnight stuff. Did you see that at the end? It's sort of like, okay, let's get going.
Yeah.
So I thought that was rather nice.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that too, and that's really impressive at the tender age of 15 to know how to, hone a working relationship, and that's such a huge aspect. Not just the likes of the difficult entry that you see now in the rotational lift. That's technically and physically so challenging, but also the life skill of working with another human under such pressure is massive, and at 15 years old she seems to have a good understanding of how to do that well.
And I'm sure Nikita knew that she was struggling and trying to catch up because she chasing a little bit on that, but great energy and effort throughout the program, big smiles on their faces in the kiss and cry, enjoying the moment to be here, but they've got lots of work yet to do. But this is part of the journey. If you don't have problems and mistakes, well, everyone does. So you have to move on from it and learn from it.
Absolutely, and great to see the smiles and the kiss and cry with Ruslan Goncharov as their coach here in Riga.
Rhythm dance scores for Harlow, Lanella, and Nikita 31.92, and that will put them currently into fourth place. There's a look at our next team on the ice just moments before their names are announced. These precious moments. Nerves and excitement at the same time. From Georgia, 17-year-old Grace Elizabeth Venek and 19-year-old Yehor Barsha.
This team will add flamenco to the required tango in their rhythm dance.
Well, great energy throughout this dance by Grace Elizabeth Vanek and Yehor Barsha from Georgia. Good skating skills, strong posture with great backs. Your thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, Georgia having a really strong competition here in Riga. Konstantin Supatashvili 10th in the men's short program. Inga Gurganitsa 5th in the women's. And this, so strong that I'm sure they will be in contention to take the lead at this stage. And any team topped by Igor Spielband, you have to assume that will demonstrate great quality.
Yeah, I was just looking at the coaching team, Igor and Pasquale. You know, you have good basic skating. There's Igor greeting them as they come off the ice. Great basic skating skills and, you know, coach of Olympic champions. Wonderful to have that on your side.
Absolutely, and such intensity as well. And I actually saw this couple finishing their warm-up with a series of backwards crossovers, which the couples will so often use to cool down or warm up. And you could see very evidently, as too with this Argentine tango, depth of edge and a length of glide. So the pattern here of this team is just bigger than others we've seen. And here, the straight line lift, gorgeous extension right through to the fingertips. Love that as a difficult dismount. The free leg just dropping there on the twizzles, so that's a Group B feature. And that, I think, for Grace won't get called.
She has a 3 on her set of twizzles for Yehor. But nice energy all the way through the program, Mark. They really kept that up. In fact, increased near the end. Such a cute young lady presenting the stuffies.
She's getting her own moment of glory, I think. She's stealing the limelight a little bit there.
Yeah.
There's a Georgian team, Lebedeva Betats and Willem Helavasa, 20th at Junior Worlds, and I'm sure Grace and Yehor vying for that spot.
Well, 54.79. And that'll put Grace and Yehor currently into first place. Nice job. And nod of approval by Igor Spielband. And there's a look at the standings so far in this event. Well, next from Germany, 15-year-old Carla Maria Carl and Kai Aufrichter. She was born in Moscow, he in Berlin, coached by Stefano Caruso.
First of 2 German teams competing, and they too will start with the first section of the Argentine tango.
A really nice job by Carla, Maria, and Kai from Germany. You can see on the upper left-hand part of the screen, they took the total for the technical score, at least in this dance. So strong, smooth, good knees, nice deep edges, and solid extensions as well, Mark.
Yeah, and as I said, there are two German teams competing here, and it's the second team to skate, which were fifth at Junior Worlds, and the contenders and leading favourites. But this was a wonderful skate from the younger German team. And interestingly, having chatted to one of their coaches, Robin Tweedale, last week, she was explaining that because of Kai's age, they would have to go up to seniors next year, even though Carla's just 15 years old. But she said that they got on so very well. They'll happily take that step into the senior ranks as a team. And you can see from these opening replays, not just connection between them, but some cool tango stylization with the gonchos. I really appreciated the choreography of the team as well. This was cool. Some good movement.
Yeah, some really nice extensions and matching. You can have great extensions by both, but if they don't match, and they certainly do here, look at the power coming out of that corner. Great flow and speed in this first steps.
And interestingly, they got all of the key points in this first section of the Argentine tango, and their coach Stefano Caruso recently qualified as an ISU technical specialist and using his studies to good use in his team here to help snare those high levels. And here, difficult entry for him in the spread eagle, and the clear change of pose for Carla, and then you'll see difficult exit as well. So easy callable curve lift level 4. As the end of the program progressed, maybe not as much flow and glide as we have seen from some of the other teams, so potentially skating skills maybe not quite as good. However, level 3 step coming up for Carla and at level 2 for Kai, so perhaps taking the decision to curtail the speed a little bit just to guarantee that the edges are more callable, as you see Stefano Caruso.
Well, probably the strongest team out there so far in the competition. We'll see their scores in just a moment, see where that takes them. Yes, 58.69. And that about Carla Maria and Kai into first place.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. And the high five. Wow, they're in sync already, even in the kiss and cry. Well done. There you go. Nice job. Yeah, and a fun moment for the team as they maybe exceed their expectation, at least at this point of the competition. And their competitors from Germany coming up right now, 15-year-old Daria Grimm and 19-year-old Mikhail Savitsky from Germany.
And this team will use the Malonga as well as their tango and the rhythm dance.
Oh, really impressive performance by Daria Grimm and Mikhail Savitsky from Germany. Mark, what I really noticed right off the top was the first element in the midline steps. They both have level 3, which is awesome. But did you see how close they were on the first couple steps, but so calm? Because they were so close and it was so interesting, but they were so calm throughout that step sequence.
Yeah, real testament to their experience. This team has been in the top 10 in Junior Grand Prix and in the Junior World Championships. So that opening midline really, really impressive. And as I say, testament to the experience that they have. And it must be daunting with the pressure of coming into the new Junior Grand Prix series as 5th place at Junior Worlds, knowing that many of the teams that were above them at that championships have either split up or moved up to the senior rank. So there's a little bit of pressure and expectation coming into this event. And they did deliver. A little bit of a mistake going into the second section of the Argentine tango. But I think that'll only be reflected in the program component scores. But you can see here in the opening, again, those little tango flicks.
Right here, this step right through there, just beautiful and so close and switching positions.
And that's so difficult to then make the turn clean and callable. For them to have been awarded a level 3 in the midline step sequence, they would have had to have 4 difficult turns called as clean. You saw the Choctaw just there. And there a counter for Mikhail. Outside close Mohawk for Daria. So technical panel looking to see this, their twizzle, that one of the callable turns. And although it doesn't sound like a lot for clean turns, the depth of edge demanded by the technical panels to count those turns is pretty intense.
Now, those great teams skate so close together. And this looks pretty close here in the first set of the twizzles. And the twizzles come in obviously at level 4 for both of the plus GOE of 1.60. So a total of 8.9 points just for that one element. There's the pickup on the rotational lift level 4 at the end of the program. That was nicely done as well.
Mikhail working hard. It's the fine line between giving so much energy and passion and then staying on your feet. And he had to work hard just at the end.
Holding that last position. They look pretty pleased with that performance. The score should reflect that. We saw some really great quality, some high levels, and it is there, 63.05. And nod of approval by the team, and that'll put them currently in the first place. As we see the results of 2 top positions held by Germany for the moment. Well, our next team on the ice comes from Italy, 18-year-old Giorgia Galimberti and 20-year-old Mateo Labasi Mandali.
And this team have flamenco, tango, and milonga to form their rhythm dance.
Well, Giorgia and Mateo Labasi from Italy, 16th at the Junior World Championships last season, 4th in juniors in Italy, hoping to move up on that and revisit the World Junior Championships a little bit later this season.
Absolutely, and as with so many of the Italian dance teams that we've enjoyed over the years, again, passionate intensity. And I think I'm conscious that we've got maybe some older dance teams in this junior competition than we had last week, and they're able to interpret with more fervor and intensity from that maturity, really. You can see in the slow motion there the commitment to the expression, particularly from Georgia. Wonderful start.
Yeah, you can't say enough about experience and maturity, and that happens through the junior ranks moving into seniors. But now with the age changes, of course, not particularly affecting the dance or the pairs, but in the singles, that maturity will happen earlier on in the junior career or in the junior career as opposed to the seniors as it does now.
Absolutely, and interesting looking at this, the use of arm movements throughout the program, also within the Argentine tango as well. And the teams will have studied extensively the origins and history of the dance to be able to showcase the judges their understanding of it. You can see here the hold around the neck, and again there from Georgia to Mateo, and that same characteristics for good component scores as we've seen from the free skating disciplines. The couples trying to make sure that the choreography reflects the musical phrase and form for the composition, and then for the presentation and expressiveness and a projection. And on cue, Georgia giving expressiveness and projection through this midline step sequence.
And it's so interesting in dance that it's technically part of your brain, and the performance part of your brain has to work in unison, has to fly in the same direction.
Absolutely, and they'll have been very conscious of the depth of edge and making those turns callable while still guaranteeing that the expression was on point. This is great. Love the curve lift, multiple changes of position, and the 1 foot exit there for Mateo, a difficult feature as they head to the finish.
Well, their personal best has been 51.50, looking to hope to get close to that or ahead of that here. We'll take a look at the scores in the rhythm dance for Georgia and Mateo. 50.07, just shy of their personal best. That will put them currently into 6th position. As we go into the ice for servicing, what's on the menu?
Movie time. So today we're going to be treated to highlights from yesterday, where we saw the pairs, the women and the men, start their campaigns here. So stay tuned for that. Before we then look at an interview with the winners of the ice dance competition last week in Ostrava. Mrazkova and Mrazek won gold in their home nation of Czech Republic and broke junior world records en route to that title. And finally, stay tuned again for more coverage of the World Ice Skating Day. Want to raise as much awareness as we can for that fantastic event, which will take place on the 4th of December. So stay tuned, and then rejoin us for continued coverage of the rhythm dance here at Riga Cup 2022. The women's event started proceedings here in Riga on the first day of competition at the Volvo Sports Centre. And previous Grand Prix winners this season, also from Japan, may have applied responsibility to young Japan's Amy Nakai, but she rose to the pressure of the occasion with a delightful performance to Gershwin's I Got Rhythm. She scored 63.87 points and finds herself only 0.2 of a point off second place at this stage. 13-year-old Soho Lee from the United States of America was delicately beautiful in her short program delivery to Chopin's Nocturne. Positive grades of execution on all 7 elements helped her score 64 points and second place in what is her first Junior Grand Prix. The first skater to compete in the women's short program led the event from start to finish, with the world junior silver medalist Jia Shin breaking the 70-point barrier to secure the second highest short program score of the series so far. She leads going into tomorrow's free skate. The pairs competition was a fantastic insight into the development of new talent in this exciting and dynamic discipline. North American teams swept the rostrum last week in Ostrava, and the same took place in the short programme here in Riga, with Canada's Ashlyn Schmitz and Tristan Taylor boogieing to the Bee Gees to finish in third place after the first day of competition. Ava Ray Kemp and Jonathan Elizarov edged out their compatriots with a 43.53 scoring short programme to the fun and playful Anything You Can Do I Can Better, finishing second place at this stage. A silver medal in Ostrava could turn golden in Riga for America's Kayla Smith and Andy Deng. A convincing advantage in both their technical element score and programme component scores secures them a 9-point lead heading into the free skate. The final event of the day didn't disappoint, with lots of close scores throughout the competition, paving the way for an exciting free skate in the men's competition. Japanese winners in Ostrava and Courchevel set expectations high for Japanese entrants in this competition, and they didn't disappoint, with Ryo Nakata nailing his opening triple axel to secure a bronze medal position going into the free skate. Despite an error on his jump combination, Suroi Suto exuded the best skating skills of the event to edge his training mate to second place. Like Kayla Smith and Andy Deng in the pairs competition, the silver medalist from last week's Junior Grand Prix in Ostrava moved up to pole position after the short programme here in Riga. Mature elegance was evident in every movement from Italy's Nicolai Momola as he smashed his personal best to lead the field by over 13 points. The men have a day of rest tomorrow before they contest the men's free skate on Saturday. Katrina, Daniel, the first gold for an ice dance team from the Czech Republic. How do you both feel?
It's an amazing feeling.
It's unbelievable because in 2018 I was here in the same Junior Grand Prix as a single skater, and I finished like 15 in the end of the standings, and today I am here with my sister, with my partner, and we are achieving something that I didn't believe before 4 years.
Well, having seen you in the rhythm dance, we all believed and knew it, but did you not feel like the pressure and the expectation? I felt it in the arena. How did you cope with the pressure to stay first after the free dance?
I felt the same like for the rhythm dance. It's so good because here we have our families and our friends, so the feeling is so nice because they are cheering for us, so it's very good.
We knew that there was a big pressure because also we saw our photos here, and but we tried to enjoy the atmosphere. All people were cheering for us, and we tried to focus on what we are doing because we love it.
You did just that, and you broke the world record in the rhythm dance. Do you feel like you could break the world record in the free dance as well?
I would like to, but it's hard.
You weren't far off it today. I think just 3 points behind the free dance world record. So where do you next compete?
We compete in probably in Egna. This is the last Junior Grand Prix. Yeah, I think we work hard again, and we try to improve. For me, I really was very shocked when we got the world record in the rhythm dance. But yeah, we work and we see what we can do.
Well, huge congratulations. We're all so impressed by what you've done and wish you all the very best for the rest of the season. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
From United States of America, Vanessa and Jonathan. From Finland, Hilda and
Welcome back to the Volvo Sports Centre for Riga Cup 2022. We look ahead now to the final group of ice dancers competing in the rhythm dance competition, and there on your screen, the last 5 teams who will take to the ice. Mark and Retty, and joined by wonderful Ted Barton, who is staying up through the night to be able to bring coverage.
I like the way you said through the night. It is currently 7 minutes before 3 a.m. in the morning here in Vancouver. It's been beautiful weather on the west coast of Canada, and so I'm just hardly waiting for the sun to come up, because then it doesn't feel so bad. I've already, Mark, I've already switched my time over, and I feel quite normal. Sort of going to bed at 6 o'clock at night and getting up at midnight. I don't know how people do work the night shift really, but I'm enjoying this. I love what I do, so this is not hard to do. I didn't have to fly on a plane for 10 hours, so excited to do it, but looking forward to Yerevan, where I will fly 30 hours, I think it is, from Vancouver to Yerevan to cover that event. Of course, you and I will meet again in Gdansk. That'll be fun to work together again, Mark. And then you will move on to back home, I guess, and you'll work remotely with me. And then you're at a special family event, I think, for Egna.
Absolutely. And just, you're technically very well educated, well versed, and knowledgeable about all things technical. I just didn't know quite how it would be possible, but to hear you now so clearly, it's quite a sign of the amazing technological advancements.
I was worried when you were saying, well, you're all things, you know a lot about technical as we look at ice dance. Yeah, no. Right? So,
didn't know where I was going with that.
I'm going, what is he talking about here? Well, listen, we love your insight into the dance world. You are a dance. You've lived it. You've done it. And it's so wonderful to hear. From an innocent perspective, I've watched the sport all my life. I'm an old dog, but I love it. But, the technicalities, start to talk about the details, very difficult unless they can see it and hear about it at the same time. And so I was a little bit careful to not go down that rabbit hole, but to enjoy the performance overall and take a look at some of the items. But you certainly bring an insight that I don't, and I really appreciate your work.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned it. Obviously, I am a self-proclaimed skating geek, and I have, although I maybe wasn't competing for a huge amount of time, I have studied ice dance from way back in its incarnation, even in the Olympic Games. And indeed, we'll be able to talk later about the first time that ice dance came into the Olympics in this group. There's some pertinent stuff there, but ice dance has changed, and potentially, of all 4 disciplines, the discipline that has been shaped the most by the system that we use now, and that has really offered ice dancers a different framework for the composition and the choreography of what they have to perform. And I'm so lucky, well, I think I'm lucky that I competed as an ice dancer and had to really get to grips with it on a day-to-day basis as a skater now as well as a coach.
Yeah, well, and you bring the insights to all 3 of those positions, no question. You really have a passion for movement and for dance. Obviously, 10 years on the ice, dancing on ice. I never understand why they don't say Dancing with Stars or Dancing with something, because Dancing on Ice, well, duh. So I'm always a little confused about the title of that show. But, that's been obviously an interesting, and you told me a number of, stories around that whole show business, and that's interesting as well. Talk about the introduction to ice dance in the Olympics, and then ice dance into the showbiz, right? And that's another aspect.
Yeah, and I think I'm really fortunate that I still get the chance to skate, not to the same technical degree as any of the athletes on your screen now, but there are performance opportunities for the skaters beyond the competitive world, and that's a real opportunity for the skaters to kind of dine out on all the endless hours of training. And I don't train anymore, but I get to enjoy all the...
Excuse me? You're doing splits and, leg lifts and all that stuff in Courchevel for a little social media stuff. You still train there.
Okay,
hey,
I still train.
Listen to that. And that's a good point to bring out to skating fans. If you want to see Mark Hanratty skate and dance in the Dancing on Ice television show, I'm sure you can find that on YouTube or do a search on Mark Hanratty and Dancing on Ice in the UK, and you're going to see Mark's work professionally, and of course you'll probably find it on Google as well from an international perspective. Now, there was no television in my day. There was just stone and chisels, right, for the scores. So you won't find me. So,
but
check it out.
Are you World Championship competitor? I think indeed. Were you not winner of the Andre Nepala?
No, I was winning. I won Oberstdorf, and I was 16th in the world in 1976, black and white television days.
Pretty prestigious stuff.
Not really.
Pretty prestigious.
Pretty easy stuff in those days. So, anyways, here we are at the Riga competition, week 3 in the Junior Grand Prix, final group in the rhythm dance. Well, the next team comes from the United States of America. 18-year-old Vanessa Pham and 19-year-old Jonathan Rogers, coached by Roman Zareski.
And Vanessa and Jonathan were third in their first Junior Grand Prix assignment in Courchevel, hoping for another medal here in Riga.
Vanessa Pham and Jonathan Rogers from the United States. Nice performance, just a slip on Jonathan's part. The second set on the Twizzles. Other than that, very nice, strong performance. 55.76 there. Personal best in the rhythm dance, grabbing the bronze medal in Courchevel.
Yeah, I'm sure that Jonathan will be frustrated with the Twizzles, but looking beyond that element, the couple is such an attractive, solid team, and looking already to have shown improvement from 2 weeks ago in Courchevel. The standard of ice dance in the United States of America is so incredible, and this team, I think, has all of the prerequisite criteria to be future senior stars as well.
And as you mentioned, you know, skating fairly close together in the two events, a couple of weeks in between, of course. They see what they did in Courchevel, started to work on that detail, and even though with that mistake, they're still going to get a good score here because there have been other improvements since then.
Yeah, it looks like the skating skills have improved. It's not necessarily that their skating skills have improved in 2 weeks, but perhaps just the confidence to showcase their skating skills just allows the judges to feel like it's a little bit easier to go up into the high sixes and maybe low sevens with their components. Judges looking for just a little bit more flow, more power and speed, more balance and glide, and that pretty evident there.
Well, it's been a few weeks, so I mean, you can not necessarily, you can improve your skating skills a little bit, but you can skate better the second time out because you had more practice and more training.
Absolutely.
There's a look at the twizzles in at level 4 for Vanessa, level 3 for Jonathan as he just hit the toe pick there and had to step out of that set. Hops right back into the end set. And a great pickup on this rotational lift, good speed across the ice, change of position here. Obviously in at a level 4 with a 1.17 plus GOE for the quality.
Here we see the midline step, that the outside closed mohawk, that one of their potential turns to up the level. And interspersing the difficult turns as we see the rocker turn there with stylization befitting of the dance style. The judges desperately keen to see that the skaters really embracing the rhythm this year as coach Roman Zaretsky joins them. And Roman has taught Vanessa now for 10 years. So he so invested in the team.
Well, 58.36, that's season's best. They topped their score in Courchevel, and that'll move Vanessa and Jonathan currently into third place. There's a look at your top 5 teams so far in the rhythm dance. Well, a young developing team from Finland, 16-year-old Hilda Taylor, 17-year-old Urho Raina.
The team and their coaches explain what limited ice availability that they have. So great to see them representing Finland.
Well, Mark, I think this is a perfect example of a team that's just young, doesn't have a lot of experience, doesn't have a lot of training time, who skated for themselves at this stage of their development extremely well. They got through that program quite nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. And chatting to their coach, Neil Brown, he was explaining that they don't have access to a huge amount of training time. And in Finland, there's such depth in the women's field and in the single skating. And Neil and coach Maurizio Margalio working hard to develop the ice dance community and discipline there as well. And we look at the Vanessa family and Jonathan Rogers, who have just competed, and I said that Vanessa's been working with her coach Roman Zaretsky for 10 years. And so it is, as you've said, Ted, it's a different kind of playing field for the different skaters, but the opportunity that this presents for this team, arguably more valuable than the likes of Vanessa and Jonathan, who have had more exposure to an international caliber.
And you can see, you know, when we're talking about the basic skating skills, there's lots and lots of work to be done here. Just a feeling of stability, get the posture, the back a little bit straighter, deeper edges. But that comes to thousands of hours of training. And if you don't have access to those hours and time, it's difficult to get those basic skating skills at a higher level. But I thought for the skills this team had coming onto the ice, they got through that program rather well.
And hopefully the visual motivation of seeing the likes of the Americans who've just been will fuel them to return to training not only on the ice in the limited time that they do, but perhaps doing more off-ice work to just keep working on the posture. As you've said, you can see here from Urho just a little pitch forwards with the shoulders and hips a little bit back, which isn't optimal. And then seeing the likes of Jonathan Rogers might just motivate him in day-to-day training on and off the ice to keep working on shaping the physique in a more judge-friendly manner moving forward. As you say, Ted, you can see that they're well trained. They look like they're 100% in control of the knowledge of the choreography and the timing of what they were doing.
It's just the detail and the work in every step and every position. And you can see they track each other pretty well through that. Means they're watching where their partner is at, and they're basically timing their unison with each one of the steps. So that's good. Just lots of work, individual work really in many cases, feeling comfortable and confident in your edges and positions. Lots of work to do in that difficult sport indeed. 29.78 for Hilda and Raul, and that'll put them currently into 10th place. There's a look at our next team from Ukraine. 16-year-old Maria Pinchuk, 19-year-old Nikita Pogorilov.
This team performing already from the start as they head towards the music, which will be a tango and a flamenco.
Well, 17th of the Junior World Championship last season. Maria and Nikita from Ukraine. Nice performance there. 53.75 season's her personal best last season on the Junior Grand Prix. Looking to top that score here today, and most certainly, I believe they will.
Yeah, absolutely, and just humongous respect for this team. Originally from Kharkiv in Ukraine, and now relocating, understandably, because of what's been happening to Austria. And fascinating to see that despite all that they've, I'm sure, endured, that they've pushed their skating limits, perhaps all the challenges that they're enduring off the ice, channeling increased hard work on the ice and pouring all their emotions into their training, and that visible here. And this team were behind Galamberti and Mandelli from Italy at Junior Worlds in 17th, just one spot behind the Italians, and the Italians find themselves here in 7th place at this stage in the rhythm dance, so that'll be an indication as to the progression they've made, because I'm pretty confident this will go above that. And you could just see here, running out of room. This rink is 58 metres in length, just slightly shorter than what a lot of the teams will be used to. Olympic-sized rink, 60 metres by 30 metres, and you can see in some of the ice dancers, they're just running out of room to fit in the sections of the Argentine tango, particularly the first section, which really consumes a lot of the rink.
Just squeaking it out. Yeah. I saw a couple of the teams just barely not hitting the kickboards at the end of the rink. There's a look at the set. First set of twizzles, a little bit out of sync on that. Second set comes in nicely, and they're in at a level 3 for Maria and level 4 for Nikita.
Yeah, I just think the last rotation there was a spun rotation for Maria, as we look now at the straight line left. Change of position, and a nice 1 foot exit, very clear. I thought components really, really strong at the start of the program. As we look towards this, the midline step sequence, naturally and inevitably started to fatigue, but you can see that the leg flicks indicative of the dance style. And this outside mohawk, but just not as much strength as is. I mean, it's easy for me to say, Ted. I'm not out there exhausting myself working the 3 minutes worth of competitive skating, but I'm sure as the season progresses, the components will stay strong towards the end at this point.
But we do know the process, the progress. You've done that as a skater yourself, so you're speaking from a perspective of experience, no question. We understand that this is still early in the season. There's lots of growth and improvement and refinement that will happen throughout this competitive season as they train and compete more. And there you go. And there's a look at Maria Pinchuk and Nikita Pogorilov from Ukraine as they sit proudly with their jackets on their knees. Rhythm dance score 59.82 for Maria and Nikita, and that will put them currently into second place.
They look very expectant of that result, not reacting much there to the score.
Yeah, they're going, okay, that's what we expected. Well, next up, from Great Britain, 13-year-old Ashley Slider and 15-year-old Atul Onge Perez.
And their coach, Philippa Tyler-Green, was married at the weekend, and such is her commitment to her team, she's delayed her honeymoon to be here for these young British skaters.
Wow. I mean, I have not seen this team, and you don't listen to me necessarily from a technical perspective. We'll go through that. But the performance level for a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old was of the highest level. They are natural dancers, passionate performers, and you could see that coming out in that rhythm dance. Just absolutely outstanding. The twizzles are at level 4s, a lift, the pickup on the rotation lift, absolutely outstanding. Am I wrong? Of course, they didn't get a lot of the key points. They only had one of them, 1 out of the 8. Okay, that's fair, but wow, that was pretty outstanding, Mark.
And you know what's all the more impressive is that off the ice they're just the most charming and delightful young humans. So then to interpret that feisty, passionate tango is almost more impressive, because as people they're just delightfully charming and lovely, and yet here you could see they were committed to the intensity and passion of tango. And chatting to the team before they competed, and their coach Philippa, you know, it's big time for British skaters and British people. It was obviously huge news about the passing of our queen, and you know, really I'm sure that will affect these young people, and it definitely did their coach. And so they said that they would be out skating for the queen. So
yeah, that was really beautiful. I mean, I did not expect that level of performance and even skating skills. And just for 13 and 15 years of age, they've got so much potential and energy and passion on the ice. And the other thing I noticed, Mark, is that their skating skills and quality were equal. So not one was not necessarily way stronger than the other, and you quite often see that in young teams. But in this team, they look as a team, not as two individuals.
Absolutely, and that transition into the twizzles was fabulous. And the team, they have skated together for quite a long time. They've worked with their coaches, Tyler Greencamp in Streatham, for a number of years, and they've been really prepped and primed to compete in this level for a long time. They've got, indeed, one of their coaches, Diane Tyler. She was the winner of the Olympic event. When ice dance was used as a test event in the Olympic Games, their coach, or one of their coaches, Diane Tyler, was the winner of that, and she indeed a 4-time world champion. So they are in the hands of people who know what is necessary to succeed on the international ice dance stage. And interestingly, their coach Philippa posted a picture last night of her mother, Diane, meeting the Queen, and you know, special person at times. Yeah.
Mark, my picture's frozen. Is yours?
No, we've got all the coverage as the team heads towards the end of the midline step and that dynamic finish from the skaters. And we see them now in the kiss and cry, and they must be so, so proud. And as I said, their coach married on Saturday, here to support them now.
Wow, that's fantastic. I'll just step aside quickly and reboot this. You take over in the introduction of the next team, and I'll be back in just a moment.
51.13, a huge score for the youngsters.
They deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. Delightful stuff.
Okay, I'm going to reboot. You take over.
So, as you can see from the images on your screen, it's going to be a Canadian team which will take to the ice. And the final competitors in the ice dance competition, Sandrine Gauthier and Quentin Thierrin. And they two from the Ice Academy of Montreal.
Skating to flamenco, tango, and paso. Well, Mark, you wouldn't think off the top that the Pirates of the Caribbean would be a flamenco tango and paso, but effectively done by Sandrine Gauthier and Quentin Therian from Canada.
Absolutely. What a brilliant choice of music and brilliant composition of the program. And this team choosing to leave the Argentine tango perhaps later than most of the other couples have done, and really offering, it seemed like this team had more music than everybody else to be able to put transitional content and real composition of the program together.
Well, they were very, very precise with their movements, smooth with their skating skills, good lean and depth of edge. And I didn't want to say more simple, but it looked more clean, I would say, than some of the other teams in their execution of the elements, and yet they came with performance, particularly near the end of the program.
Absolutely, and this is a team who will train alongside the likes of Hannah Lin and Yi Kwang, who won the first event in Courchevel, and so they'll be exposed on a daily basis to world-class skating. And here you can see the beginning of the midline step sequence, and they're really getting into character, making it easy for judges to go up on the composition component score as they see the first Choctaw. Comes in at a level 2 on the midline, so technical element score.
Look how nice and close they are together, tracking each other, nice and smooth. And it, as I said, this step sequence looked a little bit, I don't want to say simple, it's not the right word, but a little bit more basic, let's put it that way, but really well executed.
Well, and perhaps the construction was to be very, very clear on the content to make sure that the technical panel gave there the twizzle for difficult turns, or, I mean, a level 4 step is what everybody's aiming for, but to see a level 4 step in ice dance is quite rare, so to get a level 3 is quite the coup. And you see now the Argentine tango, which they left later in the program than most would, but key points really favourable. 3 of the key points. This the 3rd and 4th key point, that cross row, and the 3 turn for each. That the section in which the technical panel will be really scrutinising to see whether or not the skaters are on the correct and cleanest of edges. I dare say towards this second section of the Argentine tango, pitching forwards a little bit for Quentin there, starting to fatigue a little bit with the posture. But they know that. They work with the absolute centre of excellence in Montreal, and they're in very capable hands to help this team progress towards hopefully making it onto the Canadian Junior World Team.
We have a lot of dance teams here in Canada in the junior ranks, and very competitive category indeed, with lots of good young teams coming up. A lot can change from the beginning of the season into the national championships, will take place in Ostrava in January. So lots in that story to unfold. And the rhythm dance scores for Sandrine and Quentin, as we get the young lady passing on the stuff. He's so cute. 65.45, and that puts Sandrine and Quentin into first place, and I don't think they expected that. But there you go. They take the lead after the rhythm dance, or so far, after the rhythm dance. Absolutely outstanding.
Coach Benjamin Brizois, he was with the winning team in Courchevel, and his charges top the leaderboard in the rhythm dance here in Riga as well.
2 for 2 he is.
Yeah.
So far.
He's a good omen.
And there's a look at the final standings. Sandrine and Quentin, last skaters, taking the lead. Daria and Mikhail and Maria and Nikita in third.
And that concludes the first section of the ice dance competition. And now all 4 disciplines have taken to the ice to start their campaigns. We look ahead now to where the medals will be decided, and the first competition to do that will be the pairs. So join us after a short break to see who will be triumphant in the pairs free skate.
We'll be back.